For today's video, I'm going to discuss the things that concern me most in Supercoach 2021 in each line. So a few things that I'm a bit undecided on for Supercoach. Still plenty of time left, but you don't want to overthink it, but at the same time, you want to make the best pick, so you got to think it through, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's about 1 AM in Adelaide, and yeah, I'm just not tired at all. Even though I look tired, I'm always tired, but yeah, thought I'd do a video anyway. Hopefully don't wake anyone up, so it should be good. So in the defence, so we did lose Lockie Whitfield, which is pretty interesting because he seemed like he was a lock in most teams. A few people didn't want him, but that's fine. Worked out for them now. Not sure he gets up for round 1, but we'll see. So the replacements for him, I looked at Callum Mills, Braden Maynard, Tom Stewart. It seems Tom Stewart is the safest bet, and I probably want a Geelong player as well, just because they're probably going to finish well. And they have Tom Stewart has the early bye, which is really good in my opinion, because that's the round in the buys I prefer to take the hit in, so the next 2 rounds are easier. Callum Mills is an interesting one. I'm not sure how well he can score in the midfield. I think if last year taught me anything was with Dan Houston, just because you score well in defence and you go in the midfield, doesn't mean you're going to score well in the midfield, if that makes sense. So he had one game where he scored 110, but yeah, probably not too confident on Mills. Maybe prefer him as an upgrade target. It seems pretty expensive. And then Braden Maynard's an interesting one. I do really like him, but I'd rather use him as an upgrade target. Stewart seems a bit safer, but I still think Maynard averages slightly more, but higher risk. And in the starting team, I definitely prefer less risk as possible, because if the last 3 years have taught me anything, the more risks I've taken, the worse things I've gotten. So yeah, so that should be interesting. Lloyd and Laird seem to be locks, and then the McDonald pick, I'm starting to, wouldn't say second thoughts, but probably more conscious of how David Noble will use him, whether it will be the same as Reece Shaw or something else. It seems inevitable that he will start in the back line, but yeah, I think they'll still use him as that outlet in defence, but hopefully no lockdown or anything like that. But not exactly sure. We'll see. I think the pre-season game will help us know what the role of Luke McDonald is. But nonetheless, Luke McDonald stays in the team. So onto the midfield. And the midfield, I think, is the hardest line to pick. And usually I found it the easiest pick, because you got heaps of guns and you have preferences of which guns you want to pick. But right now it seems everyone seems a tad overpriced, and there's a few concerns over a few players. Do we have to pick Lockie Neal? He's barely been training actually, which is pretty interesting. So I have to watch out for that. And same with Oliver. He's been held back a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe they're just being managed, but we'll keep an eye on that. And then Jake Steele, I'm very happy with that pick. And then you have all these other options. So, for example, Christian Petrarca I've thought about, but I'd rather wait on him as an upgrade target. But he's one, he could go the other way, really. He's improved pretty well the last 2 years, and especially last year, 2020, in the midfield. So he was just phenomenal and has a perfect game for Supercoach. It's just if he can do it in extended quarters. So yeah, maybe Petrarca has another gear in him, we don't know, but maybe just use him as an upgrade target, but definitely one to keep an eye out for. Bontempelli is probably the most likely mid for the Bulldogs, but I think I'll just wait on Bontempelli because he gets tagged and stuff, so maybe opportunity later in the season. Another guy I'm considering is Sam Walsh. So Sam Walsh, the thing that worries me, and this probably doesn't worry anyone else about Sam Walsh, is that he had a really bad form slump at the start of 2020, and it was really no explanation for it other than he said he was putting too much pressure on himself or something like that. So Sam Walsh is another interesting one. And then Matthew Rao. This is very interesting, and probably the most interesting one in the midfield, because there's a few layers to this. So obviously he's a second-year player, but he's also had the shoulder surgery and he's been out for a long time. So he's had a really, really, really long pre-season, really, probably trained the whole way through. Do we pick Matt Rao? He's 50% ownership. Probably. I think what he showed in his first 4 games, he showed with some of the best football we've seen, really. If he continued at that level for the rest of his career, he'd probably be like a top 10 player of all time. So it's a hard one. I think it's the shoulder that makes it really interesting, because without the shoulder, I think you lock him in. How does that affect him? He's still being held back at training. Actually, I think Lukosius did an interview this week and said Rao is in full training as of this week. So that's 40 days out from the start of round 1. So that's an interesting one. For now, I think Rao is in. Just because, I don't know. The high ownership kind of protects the pick a lot, but the shoulder does concern me slightly. And also, I expect he'll get a few tags. I think he was getting tagged that game he got injured. So not sure how he deals with that, but some of the games he's had are pretty huge. So also hearing good things on Noah Anderson. I don't think you can pick Anderson, but just an interesting point. I want to hear some good reports on Ruck, because it's a really tough one to go without him, but it's also sort of tough to go with him, if that makes sense. So it's mainly the shoulder, really. And the rucks, I don't really care. Gorn, Grundy, see you later. I've seen a few people with Bruce. I hope they understand his injury history, and the fact that Mumford's still on the list, probably going to cover Bruce every now and then, but I expect Bruce to play predominantly as the number 1 ruck when he's available and doesn't need to be rested. I suppose we have Marshall this year, but yeah, I'm not starting without Gorn, and 650k for Grundy is pretty reasonable price for a captain option. So yeah, Gorn is the go-to captain. I'm not sure how many times I have to explain that. But yeah, the missed points will start to compound. So yeah, you don't want Gorn to be in last year's form or even within 10% of it. I get he's overpriced, but again, he's the go-to captain. And then the forward line, I'm actually finding the forward line very easy. It's Dunkley, Marshall. I don't understand why anyone would go without Dunkley. And I don't care if the argument is, I don't know about his forward time. This dude dropped to 200 in 2019 when he was playing midfield. So, and then his first 3 games last year, he played midfield as well. So it was just because Libba got back to his best form and Baz was used more on the guts. So it's sort of hard to take him out, and they were struggling up forward a bit. Still hate that he was used in the ruck, but he still scored well in a stupid role. So if you start with that Dunkley and he plays midfield, I think you're screwed. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that, but yeah, whatever. And then Rowan Marshall, I think, is great cover for us. And again, if Ryder goes down at some point, he's probably going to average 120 plus. So I mean, he's only getting better and seems to improve this preseason as well. But yeah, we've seen what happens when he does 50-50 rocking with Ryder, averages just under 100. So I'm not sure you can pass on that, plus the value in ruck cover. Why wouldn't you go with Marshall, really? And then you have Dustin Martin now. I feel with Dustin Martin, I mentioned this on the stream, we're paying up for so many players, especially me. My approach is 12 keepers plus a mid-pricer and a fair few paid-up rookies, maybe 3 or 4, including like a Danaher and MP type sort of thing. But Dustin Martin, I'm not willing to pay overs for Dustin Martin. I know he's durable. I know he's probably good for 95 to 100. But I'm not interested in paying overs for him because I'm paying overs elsewhere. So happy to upgrade, get him for 500k, maybe less at some point during the season. And then there's a whole bunch of other forward breakouts, and this is so hard to pick. And I wasted my time last year trying to pick the breakouts. So in my team reveal, I had Andy Brayshaw. I bailed on him for Segler, I think. Or Segler or Lynch, one of the two. But I ended up starting both, and it was a really, really costly decision. Terrible. Should have gone for the young talent playing midfield instead of the dodgy role of maybe Ruck and key forward. So good lesson for that. But the whole point of it was, I was looking for the value pick in the forward line. I was just thinking, I need to find value. But really, I think value can be a trap sometimes, and there's more value in picking a safer player so you don't have to burn a trade later. But if you do nail the value picks, you are flying. But it's very hard to do, and I don't think you absolutely have to do it. If you're really good at trading your way through, you can still get a really high rank. I butchered my starting team. I butchered 3 picks in my starting team, and I finished top 350. Or I think I did. Maybe just outside top 350, can't remember. So I think I'm going to do a video on that, just my whole philosophy on how I should pick my starting team. So I think when I first started taking Supercoach seriously, probably 3 years ago, my conclusion of looking at all the winning teams was pick proven, durable players so you can use your trades to advantage rather than cover your losses. And I think that still holds true for the most part. But that's the approach I'm gonna re-adopt that approach, and instead of looking for the value risks, I'm just gonna play it safe and then just make sure job security in every single position is good, as best as it possibly can be, and then grow the team from there. So, and yeah, in doing this, paying up for premiums everywhere, it means that the high-end premiums I don't have to scramble for or leave it to timing to bring these players in. So you're still talking about the forward line, and then there's a whole bunch of, there's Zeeble going to be good at halfback, Danaher, is he going to stay fit? It seems he's having a good preseason. And then Jarman MP, I sort of like, seems to be doing okay at preseason, and he's really cheap, only 200k. And maybe Braden Campbell plays, I'm not sure he's going to score a whole lot, but we'll see. So just some interesting thoughts. So midfield's a bit of a struggle. Defense sort of stressed about the Luke McDonald pick. And then there's a whole bunch of mid prices who I didn't even mention. Still waiting on Haitley. Starting to get a bit nervous on that pick, just because I'm not sure where he's in the pecking order at the Crows. But what he's been able to produce at SNFL level, at NEFL level, and in the preseason games for Giants as an inside mid has been really, really fantastic stuff. Like high possessions, huge Supercoach scoring. I think one game he had a 129 in the preseason, averaged 91 in the SNFL and 111 in the NEFL. So I read those just recently. And there's Tom Green, there's Miller, there's a whole bunch, Cardwell, a whole bunch of other guys. We're only going to get 1 game sample size on, and we're not hearing, I don't know if it's because of coronavirus, we're not getting enough open training sessions, stuff like that. But we're not getting a whole lot of info on these guys, so it's going to be very difficult, but we'll see. But yeah, anyway, that's a bit of a ramble, 12 minutes of talking about Supercoach. Hopefully I can go to sleep soon. That'd be good. But anyway, let me know what you guys are what's giving you the most trouble in your starting team. And yeah, I'll try to get to the questions and see how we go. Maybe I can help, maybe not. We'll see. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.